Hey everyone, I'm Spencer.
I'm Laura, and we're Married with Board Games. A legendary explorer has gone missing in the Amazon in search of the lost city of El Dorado, and you and your team need to find him and bring him home.
But the task isn't all that simple. The jungle is unforgiving. You'll have to make the best of your food, ammo, and health as you make your way deeper down the path of dangers.
And that's what you'll be doing in The Lost Expedition, a cooperative card game for 1 to 5 players from Osprey Games. But how does that treachery translate to the table?
Let's head over to the table and have a look. Here we have the Lost Expedition. Now I've set up partially for a game. I just wanted to lay everything out here and show you what it is. First thing I want to draw your attention to are these expedition cards. Now you're going to put out those dependent on how difficult you want the game to be. Each card is a movement that you have to make to get to the end where the lost city of El Dorado is. So if you put in more cards, that's more. You have to travel, making the game more difficult. So right now I have it as easy as it can be. There are meeples that represent your team of explorers. The reason why there are 2 is because you can play a head-to-head version where each person controls a group of explorers. But for the main cooperative game, you only use 1. All players will control a team of 3 explorers, regardless of how many people are playing. So even if there are 4 people playing, you still only play with 3 explorers. You can pick and choose which ones you want, just as long as you have 1 representing each different type of experience. You've got camping over here, you have navigation here, and then you have jungle experience there. So it doesn't matter which one you choose, just so that you don't have more than 1 of each type. But I'll show you here. You've got Bessie, and then you have Teddy, then there's Roy, and then Inez, and then you have Isabel and Candido. So once you have your team selected, you're pretty much ready to begin the game. Throughout the game, you'll keep track of your explorer's health with these health tokens, and that's going to be their life points essentially. And once they run out of those, they're out of the game. When all of the explorers are dead, game's over and you lose. You only need 1 though to reach the end of the path and make it to the city and win the game. There are also food tokens. Some of the cards will require you to spend the food tokens, and I'll show you those cards here in just a second. Also at the end of every round, you're going to flip this token for morning and evening, and each time you do that, you have to spend a food token there. So you have to manage those food tokens pretty well. And then there are ammunition tokens. They're going to be events on cards that are going to make you spend these, and if you can't spend them, then you're going to have to lose health points. I'll show you these player aids real quick before I get to the other cards. They're very handy. On one side it tells you what the different symbols mean. If they're black and filled in, that means you gain that. If it's white, that means you spend it. And then on the back it goes into more detail on some of these other symbols. For example, this means skip. You can skip the next card in the row. You can swap 2 cards that are in the row. You can remove a card that you don't want to do. You have to add a card to the end of the line. And then if you see this symbol, that means you can advance to the next expedition card, getting closer to the goal. And then finally, if you see this one, death, one of your explorers must die. I'll go ahead and show you some of those adventure cards here. Everybody's going to have a hand of these things, and it's going to be up to you as a team to play these down to help you get further down the path. So here's an example of one. You've got healing herbs. Now if you see a yellow, that means it's an event, so you have to do that. If it's blue, it's optional. So in this case, this means you can skip the card that's next, because as a team, you're going to be laying these down beside each other. This is optional. This means you have to spend this expertise. You'll gain 2 life points, and then you have to add a card. Here's another example. Here's fever. If you see red, there are usually 2, and you choose one, so you either can lose a health or lose a camping expertise. Here's just some more. There's a crocodile. Just lots of variety. There's a whole deck of them. There's so many. And you see there's a number down here. In the morning, when you play these down as a group, you have to resolve them to where they're in numerical order. So even if I played these 2 down, even though this is 14 and 53, you'd have to go in this order. Then in the evening, when you play them down, you have to resolve them in order that you play them down. So you have to be real strategic about which cards you want to use in the morning, knowing that they'll be going in numerical order, and which ones you want to save for the evening, knowing that they have to go in the order that you play them down. So again, there are a lot of these cards, crocodile, leeches, that represent a lot of things that can happen to you in the Amazon. I mentioned the morning token. You flip this over at the end of the morning phase, and then you flip it back over at the end of the evening phase to remind you what phase it is, and also to remind you to spend a food token. And then this is the expedition leader. It's the person that's leading the round that begins each round. All right, let's head into our discussion. Let's begin with the look of the game. I like the artwork. It's very colorful. I don't know what how you would describe it, what type of art, but I feel like it's appropriate for the game, and it's very, you know, descriptive of what's going on in the jungle. So I enjoy that. I think it helps set the mood for the game.
Definitely.
And I remember you mentioning you like the size of the cards, right?
I do, because there are so many icons on the cards. It would just be so easy to either drown out the artwork by covering it up with icons if the cards were smaller, or having to make the icons smaller on a smaller card. And the way this game goes, I mean, you don't want to have to be, guessing on what they are. And so it really helps a lot how big the cards are, so you can see the details.
Definitely need to pay attention to what those symbols are.
Oh yeah, that is crucial.
And I want to talk about something that Osprey does, and to me, I like it. I don't know if it's a big deal to other people.
Well, and I don't know if they do it for every game.
It's not every game, but I like the book thing with the box.
Because they did this also
the Escape from the Aliens.
Yeah, our Escape from the Aliens from Outer Space Deluxe Edition does the same thing.
So I appreciate that. It's just one piece that keeps everything together.
So true. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the meat of it, the gameplay. Okay. What are your thoughts on the gameplay?
I like how it flows. It goes pretty quickly, and turns don't take just a super long time, I feel like, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I enjoy those tough decisions that you got to make. You know, it's almost got to feel like the Grizzled, where you have to pick a card not knowing what your teammates have. And
Which is fun with how it's different in the day round versus the night round.
Right, where in the day round it goes in numerical order, and then you have to change the way you think for that night round, for the evening round.
It's just your order that you're sitting in.
Right, and I appreciate that. That way it doesn't get stale. It changes things up, and it changes your way of thinking, and I really enjoy that. And we mentioned the co-op aspect of it. You know, it is cooperative. Obviously, you're working together. But again, it's hard to work together when you don't know what your teammates have.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, you know, it's a decent co-op, I would say. I've heard some say that they like it better as a solo experience. I've played it solo. I don't think I prefer it one way or the other. It still feels like the same game, essentially, solo. You know, you're still having to deal with those threats. And
it's just the fact that you have all the cards in your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
But in a cooperative game, again, you're dependent on everyone else playing the right thing, and you can't tell them, if you have this, play this. So it's fun to have those two different ways to play the game. But I will
say though, when it comes to, you know, in the day phase when you have to do them in numerical order, we can kind of go, all right, so this is my number and that's that number. However, I mean, it did happen though, because like I planned out, okay, well, this number's bigger, and it's a horrible card, and that one's a skip, so it's going to go right here. But then one of our teammates had to play another number that went in between.
Yeah, so we ended up skipping the card we didn't want to skip. And then, you know, you can play head-to-head. I think we just prefer it better as the co-op. We just like working together as a team.
Right.
We mentioned that there are those tough decisions to be made. It's just you've got, especially when it comes down to two cards, you could play one or the other. Ooh, you just don't know. Well,
and I think the thing is that we kind of keep getting stuck on because of our experience with playing Robinson Crusoe. With this game, you only need one explorer to make it.
Right.
And
whereas
we're always so scared to kill them
to kill at least one, yeah.
But it's like,
but they're expendable, right?
Exactly.
You've got 3 of them.
I don't know. I would love if somebody plays this game and they're able to make it to the end with all 3 explorers. Yeah. Please send me a picture.
Yes.
On social media. I would love to see that because I don't understand how you could do that.
And I do find that interesting that you only have to have one to win the game.
And I think it's just the only way we'll ever make it.
Right, because we have yet to win.
We got
so close. But that's the thing, you don't want a cooperative game to be so easy because then there's no reason to come back and try it again.
True.
So I do appreciate that difficulty. I do appreciate that it is hard to beat. And you mentioned Robinson Crusoe. I think that if you like Robinson Crusoe but you don't want
that long
and that heavy of a game,
right? That many components, that large of a box. This is kind of a light version.
Yeah, a great filler version of that for if you've got a short amount of time or whatever.
Because people can just jump in and drop out.
Right.
And so yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if you're looking for a bleak and challenging experience, but in a short time frame, The Lost Expedition is the game for you. For some reason, going up against a seemingly impossible challenge with that feeling of despair is just something that I enjoy. I like it a little bit more than Laura, which is probably why I like The Lost Expedition more than her.
I do enjoy the game for its ease of learning, opportunities for teamwork, and having to make those tough decisions about which cards to lie down next.
And for me, I like that it gives the same feeling as a game like Robinson Crusoe, but in a fraction of the time. For all of those reasons, we give The Lost Expedition an average Married with Board Games rating of 7 and a seal of approval.
Thanks so much for watching this review. Find more of our reviews right here on the Dice Towers YouTube channel, and be sure to follow us on social media at Married with BG.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.